afternoon and welcome back to another eSports Weekly. This one, however, a little bit different. As you can see, Adonis and F-Dot, they're not actually here. They couldn't handle the fact that EU won wildcards. The best news is, though, we've got two great replacements for them today. hi-rez-Dan, hi-rez-Cooper alongside me, and you guys are the admins. You deal with the players on a day-to-day basis when they're in the studio. Actually, day-to-day basis even when they're at home as well, right?
That's right, yeah, all the time. It never ends,
all the
really.
time. So you should have some more deep insight that we don't get to see on the screens.
Probably, yeah.
I'm hoping you guys will leak stuff for us today. We're here to talk about the World Championships and take a look at all the teams that are going to be playing in the World Championships. And maybe a specific player on each of those teams too, at who to look out for as a potential superstar for their team, or at least one that has shined during this year's run for the World Championships. First team to talk about, let's start with North America, Cloud9. Dan, these guys this year had a great performance. Considering they went sort of downhill for a little while, they've crept back up and they have a chance of back-to-backs.
Yeah, it's a huge opportunity for Cloud9. They had a rough start. Actually, for most of the year, they were on the lower half of the standings in NA. But after a huge turnaround at the COG Invitational, that's when we really started to see their team turn around and start to take that forefront position that they're known for. And
the COG Invitational, Cooper, they did very well there, but the summer split, the summer LAN finals, they didn't have a good run of things. Barracuda ended up getting sick, and it cost them a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very unfortunate circumstance, but we saw Super Regionals. They come back, swinging. They got first seed, and it's going to be very tough, I think, this year for them to repeat at Worlds as the world champions, especially with Wildcard's enemy coming out of the blue, but they should have a good time.
Well, we'll see how they'll do, because obviously they're in the brackets. They've got the bye through the first round, and those boys have done great work to actually get there so far. Barracuda leading from the forefront with this team. A lot of people will put a lot of pressure onto him, and expectations are on him for the most part for Barra to perform. What's it like when he's at the regionals? Does he talk a lot during the games?
Barracuda?
Yeah, because you guys can hear the comms, can't you?
Honestly, I think it's a lot of Jeff Hindla.
Is it all Jeff?
Jeff's just screaming. But yeah, you can always hear Jeff yelling about everything. He's a mastermind, one of the carry positions of the team, definitely.
Well, they did manage to beat Enemy in the finals, and you can see Jeff on your screen there. He's, well, at least the comms man for the most part in this team as well, and good time for him. Where do you expect these guys to finish at the World Championships? I'm going to ask you both individually.
Cloud9. I mean, I definitely see them going to the finals. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if we did see that, because they're used to the atmosphere of that the Smite World Championship can be, and the crowd gets nuts, but they're experienced. So I wouldn't be surprised if they made it back to the
That's a really good point, actually, thinking about it. Just because of the fact that they've been there before is a big, amazing factor for them to have an advantage over some of these other teams. What do you think about Cloud9? Where do you think they're going to end up?
I definitely think finals as well. They're either going to win it or it's going to be a huge bust for them. It's something that they're either going to come in swinging and take finals very hard, or they're just going to lose in the placement round. Sorry, not placement.
I was going to say
quarterfinals.
Let's talk about placement rounds. Enemy, they are the other team from North America making it through. And let's be honest, nobody expected this team to make it. Cooper, I mean, they came out of nowhere.
Oh, yeah.
Or did they?
They did. I mean, we didn't expect that to happen at Super Regionals, but I can tell you just from, again, my admin experience coming in, we saw them scrimming the entire time they were here. They were focused from day one, and they really put their work in, and it showed at Super Regionals.
I mean, this is another thing, because obviously talk about Enemy here and the fact that they scrim constantly. Do you see like a team that has an advantage because they scrim so much while they're here, or is it other factors that you can see around the team? Can you see morale all the time? Like, hey, these guys have got a chance.
It's hard to say, because I feel like there's different cases with different outcomes all the time. Sometimes a team comes in, doesn't really scrim too much. Maybe they did all their prep beforehand, and then you have maybe teams like Titan last year lost all the time in scrims and then made it to the finals.
Good point. Well, Enemy, they did scrim a lot of the EU teams as well, and you can see these guys did very, very well to get themselves for that World Championship spot. They had to take on TSM and Envy as well. Envy, former big-time team through the whole season.
Yeah.
TSM as well. They were at Worlds last year, and they put them both to bed for the most part. It wasn't an easy run for these guys to make it, but they don't look too bad. But have they got what it takes, Cooper?
It's going to be rough. I mean, they can do it, especially beating Titans like Envious at Super Regionals. I think they definitely have the confidence. The issue is the preparation leading up to the World Championship. They had a lot of land scrimming, especially against those EU teams, which seemed to help them. I don't think they're going to have that same preparation going into Worlds.
Well, I mean, they should be probably scrimming against Cloud9, because we normally see that from regions, right? Then they'll stick together. So EU will scrim with EU, and NA, well, do you expect Cloud9 to scrim with enemy as the main partners here, Dan?
I think it's definitely possible. You know, there's going to be some sort of boot camp set up before Worlds,
sure.
so I imagine that you know, teams will definitely start linking up on opposite sides of the bracket.
We saw Visham there on the screen. Visham, probably the star player that a lot of people are talking about. He's been the quiet one through the season, but he's only a young lad of Devios' age, about 15 years old, I think he just turned.
Yeah, he's a young buck.
And
he showed a lot of promise, actually.
These youngsters
came out of nowhere.
They come out of nowhere, and then they fire off and get themselves to Worlds, like Devios did it last year, and this time it's Visham.
Yeah.
A lot of pressure on that young lad's shoulders. Paid Devion, put a very good team together there. And unfortunately, though, that's it for the NA qualifiers. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, you know, that's right. You know, due to some recent events that happened.
Wildcards.
Yeah, wildcard. Yeah, that thing.
Wildcards. Well,
and I didn't do so hot.
No, they didn't. Shockingly enough. Everybody in EU knew that would be the case. But let's talk about Europe now. Paradigm are the #1 seed coming out of Europe. Big surprise for me, and I think a lot of fans at home, especially when you see when we saw Epsilon and we saw Fnatic all the way through the season, #1 and 2. Paradigm came into the split at 3rd seed. Cooper, did you expect them to take first?
No, not at all. I definitely thought that Epsilon was going to be taking 1st seed, but I guess that 1st seed curse just kind of hit again, and Paradigm played fantastic at Super Regionals.
And they had a good time. I mean, to be fair, though, they did struggle against Dignitas in the first day, which was quite a surprise that everyone expected them to just clean up that. And Dignitas, I think they could be quite upset about that. But Paradigm, they came with a strategy here, Dan, and they seem to work against both Fnatic and Epsilon. Do you reckon they're going to repeat it for Worlds?
I think Paradigm is a very energy-based team. Like, they need a lot of when they're riding high, things are good, and when things are bad for them, you know, they tend to not go so well. So I would say Paradigm, if they can keep the energy up, they can probably roll through a couple high-profile teams.
So, where are you expecting top 3, top 2? Potentially.
I wouldn't go top 2. I wouldn't go top 2. I would definitely say probably in the semifinals at least, but past that, it'd be really rough for them.
What about you, Dan?
I would actually say the same, yeah. I'd be surprised if they made it to the finals, but yeah, anything could happen.
Anything could happen. We can see Xaylia here. Now, this team as a whole, there's no... It used to be the Xaylia team, right? Where everyone's like, feed Xaylia, he gets big and strong, and the team does well. However, as the season's gone on, we've seen this team become a unit more, and it's all about working as a cohesive... Sort of like the old TSM, the old COG Red Boys.
Yeah,
does it feel the same way?
Absolutely, where there's no really standout player anymore, I feel like, on this squad, but as a whole... they're a fine-tuned machine here.
Now, the one player that a lot of people have spoken about throughout the season, I know we've got clips of footballers, but TrixTank is probably the name that comes to the forefront most with this team as the one that carries it, because his comms, at least from what I know, they seem very strong. He's always talking all the time, a bit like Jeff Hindler from Cloud9. Do you guys see the same thing when you get to listen into the comms?
I would say so, yeah. Funball's very vocal, too, as well. But definitely TrixTank leading the energy for the team.
And that's Paradigm. They're going to be the #1 seed going in. They also got the bye through. 2nd seed, however, is Epsilon. Now, Epsilon, these guys all season since they hit the Pro League have just had stride after stride after stride.
Oh, yeah.
They only dropped 1 game in the regular season to Fnatic, but they came to LANCOOP, and it didn't all go as planned.
No, it didn't. But they are my pick to win Worlds, so I definitely have them going to the finals. And yeah, they didn't have a great performance at Super Regionals, but I think it was what we kind of expected, right? It was the 1st seed, Jitters, first time at LAN as a team, and they're going to go into Worlds, I think, very strong. Very
strong. So the LAN Jitters is what they've got over with that LAN, which is an important thing for them. I guess at the same time, maybe losing is a good idea, Dan, because sometimes when you lose, you can bounce back.
Absolutely. Epsilon, I think they're going to take this loss and really just come back swinging.
Well, we'll see exactly how they do, because these guys, they've been around for a while now. Everyone knows the name Adaptin. There's a lot of talk about him being the world's best player, potentially.
Yeah.
And a very, very strong jungler coming out from Europe as well. And you can actually see Adaptin on your screen there. And even though people said he didn't have the strongest of tournaments when he was here, his performances were still good, Coop.
Oh yeah, they were still fantastic. I mean, he played, we're looking at a clip of Thor right now. He was great. And, you know, I expect him to push that envelope even further and be the MVP that we saw, you know, during the fall split.
And let's see if we can continue that for the World Championships. And if you've got them down for first, you think they're going to win Worlds?
That's right.
So they're going to beat Cloud9 in semis?
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah.
What do you think, Dan?
A bold statement. It's tricky with Epsilon because they don't have a lot of LAN experience, but they are, regarded as the strongest team maybe in the world. I mean, but Cloud9, man, it's tough to say because they looked unstoppable.
That semi-final
at Super Regionals.
Could be crazy between these two.
That might be one of the best games of the whole tournament.
It probably was. And what other games are the best other than EU versus NA? It goes back all those ways. And, well, with EU versus NA, we can start talking about the wildcard matches
That's
well
right.
now as well. I mean, we're still following ridiculous Epsilon on screen right now, just roaming around, killing everybody. But Epsilon, they finished second, which is a bit of an upset. We didn't expect them to lose to Paradigm, let's be honest. I think we all thought they were going to come in as first seed, but looking pretty strong.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you could really say about what you saw? What did you guys see out of them at LAN? Because that's the first time we saw them at LAN. Thinking about it.
From Epsilon?
Yeah.
Well,
is there anything unusual that you didn't expect, or
it's hard to say. It's almost when there was such a turning point when the finals wasn't going their way. Comms started to get a little, quieter. It tends to happen almost with every team, but they did okay. They were happy to have qualified for Worlds already, so I think they were happy with the result regardless of where they placed in the Worlds bracket. So
that was the main thing for them to get themselves to the World Championships. They will have to go through the qualifying phase though. They don't get the bye now. Let's talk about Fnatic. They also have to go through the qualifying phase. They managed to defeat Eager in the wildcard matchup. And they came into the LAN second seed, Cooper. They've had a pretty good season. They always seem to be in the top half of the bracket. But coming to the LAN, did you expect them to lose to Paradigm, who did not lost 2 all season?
Honestly, I didn't. It was actually kind of a shock. I did still expect them to kind of take the wild card, though. I did know that Fnatic's just the team that they're making Worlds no matter what. No matter what's thrown in their face, they'll make it. But losing the Paradigm, I think, is something that'll stay in their mind for Worlds, and we'll see how that affects them actually at play.
And a good point, again, is like they always seem to make LAN. Well, they always have made LAN since it began, and the big point to make here as well, Dan, is the fact that this is the only other team that's coming for back-to-backs.
Right.
We're going to see Cloud9 and Fnatic coming here.
Yeah.
So they should have an advantage at Worlds as well.
Fnatic, yeah, I mean, they've always been the wild card team. It's like when they first started playing Eager, Eager just looked super strong out of the qualifiers. In the third place matchup in NA. And I thought, Fnatic, how they had looked in the tournament, it's just like they were down on each other, things weren't going as planned. And then he just came out of nowhere. So Fnatic definitely fits the bill for the wild card.
We can see
the wild card team.
We've got clips of Reels there on screen, and Reels is probably the forefront of this team. When he goes big, he really goes big, Cooper, and potentially not necessarily carries the team, but if he's talking and he's in the action, it's going to be a good time for Fnatic.
Oh yeah, when Reels is down and playing, it's rough for their team to get back into it, and we definitely saw in the final game of that wildcard set that he was playing fantastic, and the team was really lifting up because of that.
Really did well for themselves to get there, so that's going to be. Where do you expect Fnatic to finish now? Then is the question. I mean, you've already got Epsilon as number 1. You've got Cloud9 as number 1.
Yeah, I would put Fnatic's at least going to the semis.
I mean, they made 4th last year. They made 4th last year. It's higher than 4th or lower than 4th.
It's tough to say. I would have them at least top 4 again. No real surprise if that happened. Other than that, I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't think they can have what it takes.
You don't think they have what it takes? I've got them my number 1 this year.
It's hard. There's just so many good teams.
Number 1. We'll see how they do. What about you, Coop?
Yeah, probably top 4 as well. I think it's probably the safe pick to go for now.
Makes sense. Well, we get to look across the ponds now, so to speak, because we're going to head over to Oceania and talk about Avantgarde. They're the number 1 team coming out of Australia. Well, not just they are from Australia, but it's the Oceania scene as a whole.
Right.
Avantgarde this season, they have dominated. They've had very, very little to deal with in terms of competition.
Right.
And my question to you two is, how is it if you are the top team? Because I think we know this from the whole situation of first seed doesn't win, because they don't have anyone to practice against and to learn off of. Do you think Avantgarde are going to have a problem coming to the World Championships when they don't have any tougher opposition in their region to face?
Yeah, I think initially they're probably off to a pretty rocky start, but once they get here, teams usually link up pretty quickly and get to scrimming, and it's up to the teams to adapt quickly enough to put on a better performance than they're used to putting on, when they get in the hot seat.
I think that's going to be the big key for these boys coming in. I mean, they're fresh. They've had the opportunity to play together. They played in the Pro League. You know, the Oz Pro League was going on at the same time as the SPL was in North America and Europe as well. But they've dominated just as much as Epsilon. So we can't discredit them for that, Cooper, but at the same time, you can see like their action in the fights, they look a lot like NA and EU.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I mean, you have to realize this team is undefeated in their current season. They have not dropped a game in the Pro League or a game in the regional championship. They swept both teams, and they have an experienced coach in Captain Coach. So that's definitely going to help them in preparation for Worlds, and I think they'll probably be a strong team in the placement round.
That's a really good point to make as well. Captain Coach on that roster as well. You guys have had the chance to work with him as well, you know, when he was on the Titan side. How much does a coach influence these teams, Dan?
Well, I think Captain Coach in particular for Avantgarde is a very strong thing because Captain Coach knows how competitive, you know, the competitive level that EU and NA is on. You know, OC is a very young scene still, and I don't think they're used to having, you know, really truly veteran players that have been playing the game for, you know, 2, 3+ years. Yep. And I think Captain will bring that insight to the team that, you know, maybe the other foreign squads might not have.
And he's been to the finals as well himself with Titan, so he knows the whole pressure of the whole situation there. Yeah. Australia, their big player to watch out for is a guy called Rowe, R-O-W-E. He's a jungler. Pretty much like Aninsta and adapting. I think the junglers are going to be the ones to watch from most of these regions, at least from potentially #1 seeds. Let's head over, though, back across the pond again towards South America, I believe. And I think with the first one up we're going to be looking at is Brazil is the next one on your screen. Pain Gaming. They're a surprise one because everyone expected INTZ, the guys who did very, very well last time round, didn't manage to make it. Pain Gaming, they've been second seed all season long, and yet they've managed to push up. This just seems like it's what happens in Smite. The #2 seeds just take over. Yeah.
I mean, I've seen it plenty of times. Last year, what were they called? Before the Titan, it was
Aquila.
Aquila comes in, EU regionals, comes out of nowhere. Not really a second place team, but
that's true. And Epsilon this year, they did the same thing.
Yeah,
came out of nowhere.
So it's tough to say. You know, it's like these. It seems like the best teams are always getting beat, and this is a classic case coming out of Brazil with Pain beating INTZ.
All right, question then, Coop. Do you reckon Brazil have a shot this year at advancing further than they did last year?
You know, Pain Gaming is a great team, but I don't think they're probably going to make it out of the placement round. I mean, they just don't have that style to match the NA and EU. It's going to take a lot of preparation for them to get to that level, and I just don't think they have it this year.
This was their finals here up against INTZ, who they did actually go on to defeat in a 3-1 victory there. It was a tough backwards and forwards between the two, but compositions, playstyle seems very similar to NA and the EU. Again, it looks like most of the Smite world here, Dan, are all on the same page. We don't have any sort of differences like we did last year at the World Championships. Do you reckon that would be a bigger factor for them having a chance this year?
Oh, I think a lot of teams are doing their research this year, and that's what you need to prepare, you know, for these big tournaments. So I think a lot of teams are going in, seeing what the best teams, you know, in North America and Europe are picking, and trying to replicate that in their own play. So teams are doing their homework.
And the big difference is like last year, a lot of these regions were getting the climb for the first time, and so they were a little bit behind on getting the players together on their scene to work out who's good for their region. But go on a year now, things should be a lot more advanced for both these regions.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I think they're on the same exact patch as North America and EU, so they have everything, you know, that we do, and it's definitely gonna, as long as they practice well for the boot camp before the actual tournament, then they should be fine.
Latin America is the next one up. That was Brazil. Latin America, however, those guys over at HiRez Gaming, we've heard their names before. They've been around for a while, and a lot of, I know for example, F-Dot is very, very excited about HiRez Gaming as potentially his favorite to do an upset here. How do you guys feel about these guys?
HiRez Gaming. Well, I don't really know too much about them, but I know they were at the Smite Masters tournament where they played against, well, who was down? AFK was down there at the time. So they have some sort of experience with being around, you know, a very high-profile team. So I hear they're a lot of energy.
They do.
I hear they're crazy. So, you know, some teams are like that. You know, when the energy's high, you know, the wins are coming in. So
I mean, they've pretty much slaughtered everyone over in Latin America, like completely. There's not been a competition for them that they've had other than when AFK went there. And against AFK, they finished second, but everything else was first the whole way down. Not a surprise to see those guys go in there. They're going to have some rough situations, though, at the World Championships. We'll see how they do, because I think they've got a Chinese team in the first round of the qualifiers. Talking about China, though, let's move over there now. And we've got 2 teams to talk about here. And this is the one that nobody knows about because China's is like a lockbox of secrets, right? The whole time. And all of us at hi-rez are like, what's going on in China? Guys, what's going on in China? But we don't know.
No one knows.
But we do know that two Chinese teams went. Hey, there was an Anubis played.
I've said too much.
So OMGB is the first team that are going to be there. And OMGB didn't make it last year. It's a new team this time round, but they're doing a very, very good job for themselves. OMGB, great opportunity here for them to really show off what they've got. From watching their play styles, they look very, very strong in team fighting, but they don't focus on Gold Furies or Fire Giants whatsoever. They seem to focus just on team fights and abuse that. You can see this was the finals between OMGB and the second place finishers here, Kwai-Gu Reapers. These are the 2 teams. And Kwai-Gu Reapers, you should all remember from Worlds last year, this was the team that came from China with Knight in the middle lane, Mikasa in the solo lane,
that's right,
and Master Lu, the potential Zapman of China, coming out of the Hunter role as well. But it was OMGB that came out on top, and it seems the mid laner seems to be the big talking point here. Okinawa Star, he's very, very strong and barely died in any of the games. So I'm excited to see how these guys do at Worlds. What do you 2 expect, though, from China? Do you expect anything different this year?
Well, from China, it's always a wild card from China. You know, we don't really see too much what's going on in the scene throughout the year. They come in, you know, they kind of keep to themselves when they're practicing, and you know, it's really hard to say. They're just another wild card team.
Just another wild card team. So if you have to rate each region, take away NA and EU, which region would you put at the top if NA and EU were here, and which region would you put at the bottom? Is my final question.
I would probably definitely put Oceania at the top.
Okay.
And then probably Latin America at the bottom.
Latin America at the bottom.
Latin America at the bottom.
What about you, Dan?
Yeah, I might actually be on the same boat as Coop here.
You're going to go exactly the same?
Yeah.
If in doubt. So both the admins are going to be in trouble with those teams straight away. Not a surprise there. Good job. Good job. Well played. You should have split that up so some of them would like some of you as well. Let's have a look at those brackets, though, and see exactly how the World Championships will play out. You can see Paradigm and Cloud9 did get the bye to the quarterfinals there, and it could potentially see a setup for Epsilon versus Cloud9 in the semifinals because of that. And at the same time, we may see either Paradigm versus Fnatic or Paradigm versus Enemy in the other semifinal. Could be the lineup, but there's always a chance for surprise shocks. And do you really see any upsets? What's the biggest upset you could see?
Honestly, Avantgarde taking out Enemy.
Wow.
That would actually be pretty huge. Yeah.
And it could potentially set them up for a run for the finals as well, because then they potentially face EU team in the quarterfinals, and then in the semifinals they'll have to face the other EU team, potentially make it all the way to Worlds for themselves. Big, exciting time for us at the World Championships coming up 7th to the 11th of January. This weekend, though, if you've not seen the China broadcast just yet, we will be rebroadcasting them on Smite Game at 12 p.m. EST. Myself and Adonis will be commentating over the Chinese broadcast, so you guys can see exactly what's going on there between the two of them. Any final thoughts from you two before we let you go?
Well, we just want to thank everyone for their continued support for Smite eSports, and yeah, we're looking forward to the Smite World Championship next month, and we hope to see you there.
Follow me on Twitter at HiRezCooper.
There you go. He hits the important points of the show, and that's exactly how it's going to be. Good job, Cooper. Good job. He's already better than Adonis and F. together. Thank you so much for joining me today. That's the end of the Esports Weekly for this week. Make sure you tune in for future endeavors, and I hope you all enjoyed the patch notes today.